the Call-In Show. What is up? We are back. I got some guests. We got a long-time Call-In Show caller, E. Kim, one of the first hardcore guys I ever knew in one of Grant Cohn's chats from back in the day. And we also got Bryant Culp. You see him in every single stream. Yeah. So what's up, everybody?
Hey, everybody. Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. Oops, somebody got a message. What up, E. Kim? Oh, I can't hear you. Say anything?
I don't know.
He's zooming in. Yeah. We'll wait for him to come in. So, oh, he dropped out. So, Brian,
Yes, sir.
what's on your head? What are you thinking of? What's the biggest topic in your brain swirling around right now?
Big shout out to my brother, my little brother. I got three brothers, but my little brother Kevin, he went to Petaluma to the brewery yesterday, and he got some big chicken. It's a seasonal beer that comes out like once a year, and really excited because that's his favorite beer. So he went and got like 4 packs, and had a good time. Took my mom to the brewery with him and his girlfriend, and had a lot of fun. So I'm really excited.
Gotcha. What up, E. Kim?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? I had whatever reason my phone glitched or something and left and came back in.
Yeah. Well, hey, par for the course. Brian was having issues. You were doing fine until we went live, and then you had issues right when we went live. So, who says I'll even stay through the whole stream, right? But
yeah, absolutely.
What's going on in your neck of the woods, E. Kim?
Not too much. A little chilly, but it's not too miserable out here outside Chicago. Had to finally schedule the dental implant operation and got it done this morning, and finally getting back to normal.
Now, so a lot of people are talking about this. Let's get right into the. Oh, what up? He says he's a Popeyes chicken and Budweiser guy. Hey, Damien, there's a link in the description if you want to come in and say that to my face. I actually used to work for a Budweiser distributor, and I love Popeyes. In fact, I wish they would. The Popeyes I have up here, they don't do the catfish no more. And I don't know if they still do catfish in other places, but I used to love getting catfish at Popeyes. It's not the best catfish, but it's catfish. Oh, we got Grandizer in the building. What up, Grandizer? Hope all is well. Hitting the like bucket to show the support. Thank you, sir. Just like Platform 246 said. Yep, Platform 246, very smart man. Uh-oh. Panama Queen is in the building. She's your queen to be. Queen for just forever.
That should be Grant's second channel, him singing all the songs with this high pitched voice.
Hey, I think it would Grant making jokes about like what pop culture, like just the culture going on might be hilarious. You know what I mean? His kind of like what we do? Oh, she's dying laughing. I must have George Kittled the shit out of that.
Yeah.
Oh, Damien, bruh. I just, Damien, I'm sure he knows, but all the expired beer needs to be destroyed. Okay? It has to be destroyed. And I have destroyed a lot of beer passing it through my body. Just saying. So one big topic everybody's talking about, it's hard to get around anywhere in 49ers land without talking about Brock Purdy and his surgery. But I don't personally think it's anything to really talk about right now. Not to say that it's not a big deal, but we don't have any idea of what the time frame could be. So until we know what kind of surgery he had, I'm not even really worried about it. Is there anything I'm missing?
I think he nailed it.
Oh, go ahead, Bryant.
I think he nailed it. I mean, right now, what they're saying is they can't do anything until the swelling goes down. They can't really properly diagnose it until they go into it. So it's kind of like a blind surgery. Once they open it up, then they're going to be like, oh, yeah, we can fix it, but we have to now. And that's really once the timetable is going to start, is after he's done and, everything's stitched back up. And then at that point, can anybody really, I mean, do you really want to rush the guy back? Let him have some time to heal up. Let him take the whole year, whatever he needs. Let's get another quarterback in here to compete with Trayson. He's the guy. He's going to be the guy. If not, then that other quarterback will take the position. And it's only going to be the best man on the field. That's who we want to put out there.
And go ahead, Ekim.
Yeah, until you get in there, you don't know what you're getting into. You don't want to say, oh, he has this, but when he really has something that may not be as bad. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm the 49ers, I would try to strike rich again in the draft and see if I can find another young quarterback with one of your 11 picks. What's the worst thing that you're going to do? Hit on another potential Brock Purdy, or someone who can give you something and develop into a potential asset.
And another thing, okay, so we get in there, we figure out what kind of surgery is done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does everything go as planned? It seems like, look at what happened with Trey Lance's surgery. They had to go back in again. What if they end up doing the little fixing surgery, the not so evasive surgery, and then find out that, oh, well, we got to go back in there and fix something. You know what I mean? Because it's not working well with his body or something. You know what I mean? Maybe there's a stitch or something that's out of place or something, But is that a factor in this surgery? Would that extend the time? You know what I mean? And or mess his arm up even worse. So it's what up, David McNiner? Want to say what's up?
What's going on, Ryan?
McNew. What I mean?
Well, with Trey, when he went back for that second operation, it was to remove the screws. So that's usually a good sign. So they said it would probably take a couple.
I think that's what college is he out of?
He won 2 national championships with Georgia.
Gotcha. I
mean, what's the worst thing that could happen with Trey getting the screws removed from his ankle? They say it would be 2 or 3 weeks and he heal up from that. So we're hoping that is the case. I mean, it is their off season for the 49ers, and I think they all have some kind of plan to, take some time off, recover, and then get back at it.
Hey, David. So I was asking the rest of the guys, what's your thoughts on the Brock Purdy surgery news? Everybody's talking 4 months, 6 months there, when he could be back. Oh, I'm like, hey, we'll talk about it, the day we get the surgery. And then after that, we're not talking about it for the months later, because there's no, we've seen how
there's still 2 options going on here. So what they're going to try to do is the best case scenario, which he has a clean tear. So they're going to repair the tear, and they're going to put a brace on it. 6 months. Straight up, 6 months. And then if they go in there and it ends up being way worse than they think it is, then it's Tommy Johns, and he's gone for the season. Straight up. And that's the 2 things that can happen, and we have February 23rd to find out.
And we don't even know if the 6 months is 6 months. You know what I mean? Because like I was saying, what happens if there's any setbacks? You know what I mean? Setbacks are a thing. You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
not like any surgery is exempt from having certain setbacks. You know what I mean? If somebody goes
You
a
know,
little
I
too
wouldn't.
hard,
I mean, 6 months. So we're talking like what, July? We're talking like training camp. In the middle of training camp, and I mean, me being a safe side type of guy, because I've had some injuries here and there, and I've just had to. So well, one time I had a boot for damn near a year and a half. I'm not gonna lie.
oh god.
So I know it was fun, but then being on the safe side, not playing Brock until he's 100% ready. Don't let him play preseason. I honestly think let's see what Trey Lance has. I mean, if he comes back early, then let's have an open competition. But at this point, let's not rush Brock Purdy back because we know what he's going to do in the offense. We have Trey Lance, and he's raw. He needs playing time. So let's get him some playing time and see, what he can do with that. And then, when Brock gets back, if Trey's not ready, I mean, sad to say it, we have to play the man. Our Super Bowl window is only like 2-3 more years before,
Right.
guys get there. And, unless John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan can somehow build that long dynasty like what we had in the 80s and 90s, which is a very, very hard thing to do.
Yeah. And that's another thing. So Trey starting the season. Let's say Kyle runs a normal playbook, not a Trey Lance playbook, right? We've started out slow every year, right? So think of Trey Lance finally getting his start, and also we start slow. You know what I mean? We thought Trey Lance was going to start this year. He had a horrendous game to start in Chicago. You know what I mean? And then he gets broken in the first half of the Seahawks game. So
Yep.
I think that there's going to be some calls to put Brock Purdy in immediately early into the season, because I don't expect Trey to come in, hit the ground running, and take up the space that Brock Purdy created. You know what I mean? And just fill his shoes. So I'm like, how do we tell people they got to kind of pump the brakes on that and understand that this team does start slowly, and then it's not just Trey unless he's throwing, interception. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes people can't see the difference, because if they thought Jimmy was a winner, you know what I mean? They can't see the difference between who's actually the winners on the team versus who's, what the outcome of the game is really came from. You know what I mean? And I'm scared that you're going to get people calling for Trey's head when it's Kyle's system that starts off slow.
Yes. Well, 2021, we started 3-5. Last year, we started 3-4. So, you know what? When it comes to Trey Lance, the kid needs reps. He needs actual football game playing time. Practice and OTAs, that's all good and everything. It's a good time for him to work on what he needs to work on. But he's not going to learn until he gets in the game and actually plays. And with Brock Purdy being hurt, don't rush him back. Let's get Trey Lance in some games and let him play. I don't know. I think isn't there rules about how often you can play your number one QB? Like you can only play them so many quarters or something like that. I know last year there was.
I don't think so. I thought the rules on people is just like on practice, and like practice where they like come in contact with other people, like certain plays, there's a pitch count on everybody. But I didn't know if there was a certain thing, because like some teams played their first string while other people didn't. You know what I mean? And the teams that played their first string seemed like they had a better start out of the gate, because I think they realized that they were losing a lot more in practice and they needed to get more out of their team in some way, and they did it through the preseason game. Oh, let's get right back.
Well, you know, the cutting back on preseason games. You know, like they cut back one, they made it 3, and now they're limiting how often the teams can practice because they're trying to cut down on injuries. But it hasn't had that effect. I mean, what it's done is the players aren't in football shape, and we're actually seeing more injuries now than back when they had all the practices and 4 preseason games. So it's kind of, I mean, I know you guys are trying to cut down on injuries, but it ain't working. Straight up.
Kim, your thoughts?
Well, on the players getting injured, I think there are several things there. We're asking these players to be in shape all year long, and when Nick Bosa comes in looking like Mr. Olympia with 5% or less body fat was your shock absorber. And you use the time, training camp to get yourself in shape. I know with the bigger money, that's probably a bygone era, and you remember what Jim Harbaugh said about practicing. We practice how we play. I'm not saying there weren't injuries, but it appeared that there were less injuries under him compared to Kyle Shanahan.
Yep.
Not saying that injuries can't happen, because they do. And also, these guys are bigger, faster, stronger. I'm like, we can all look at, some of these colleges and producing certain these players, and these players are monsters compared to what their predecessors were. I mean, if your left tackle is 6'6", 330, that's as some of my dad would tell me, that's a large human being.
Yeah.
And I mean, now, you see all these high school kids that are all, if you're at a powerhouse school like in Texas, just using an example, they want their left tackles to be, 6'5", 295 pounds, and, looking like want to be the first guy off the bus kind of person.
Yeah. I think it's funny how they want offensive linemen to necessarily be tall. And that's not necessarily everything. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you want them to be tall. Why? Because they have reach. Okay, so get somebody who has long arms and who is tall enough for that to be it doesn't have to be necessarily, oh, they're 6'5", so then they've got 33, inch arms. Well, I've got 33-inch arms and I'm 6'4". You know what I mean? I got 33 and a half. And you know what I mean? So why not, try and figure out like specifically what you're looking for and find better stats that actually go with what you're looking for. So if I'm looking for somebody who, from his feet to the tip of his hands has this amount of reach, who cares if they're 6'3"? They've got the reach. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. That's
They
like
could be
Womack.
Yeah. Like, it's like when so the NFL's talking about getting rid of the or the NFLPA is talking about getting rid of the combine. In fact, hey, let's bring this up. Question. NFLPA is trying to get rid of the NFL combine. What's your guys' thoughts? David, let's kick it off. See if your mic's changed.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm hoping it got better because I have like a couple devices on Bluetooth, so I just eliminated one.
It's still crackly.
It's still crackly?
Yeah.
Wonder why it's crackly. I mean, it really shouldn't be.
Here,
these things never do that.
Let me go to eKim real quick and figure out if you can't get it figured out by the next time.
All right.
I've never been a fan of the combine. To me, all the athleticism they show is nice, and I mean they're athletic. We already know that, but if you can't see how a player at their colleges when he's actually competing against a fellow athlete just as good or maybe better than him, then I'm not. Then maybe I'm blind, but I mean, you can't see the intangibles like leadership or toughness for when you're in the combine setting. It's nice to see someone run a 40, and that's always wonderful. Like the untimed Bo Jackson 4.1240, or I believe the Deion Sanders ran a 4.1840 at the time. Or those are nice, and we can all talk and marvel about that. But
But you saw those translate on the field.
I know that Bo Jackson translated on the field. All I do is just watch the film at Auburn, and those Auburn teams weren't the best, but he would help rise that team up against Alabama and Florida State and all those other tough teams at the time.
I just don't think we've seen those 40 times, those blistering 40 times we've gotten lately. I don't think we've seen it translate on the field. David, your thoughts?
Well, I just reset my earbuds. Do I sound better?
No.
But don't worry, roll it.
No?
You're good. I'm sorry. Don't feel self-conscious.
Well, when it comes down to it, does the 40 time really? I mean, it matters in some cases, but you also see the 40 time on the pro day too. So it was like Solomon Thomas. Would we have drafted him if he did not have that combine that he had? He had a killer combine. He tore it up. Would we have drafted him if he didn't show all that? Probably not. So when it comes down to it, I'm not all big on the combine. I'm really not. Because every athlete there's plenty of tape on them. We have the pro day. There's plenty of things that they can show their talent and what they can do for an NFL team. The combine's kind of, and they only invite certain players too. They don't invite all of them. So.
Brian, what do you think?
Well, I think it goes off of the NFL Network. I think like when NFL Network came out, Rich Eisen, doing his 40 dash and stuff like that. I think it kind of really made it popular at the time because we didn't have a lot going on. There's not a lot of news or anything, and NFL Network's coming out and they're trying to be good day, Monday, good morning football every day, and there's not a lot to talk about. So I think they put a lot of effort into making it interesting. And you got all these silly things, like the 40, the jump, the vertical jump, all this stuff. And yeah, there's some things that you should be able to see on the field before these guys even have to go and do any of these, acrobatic tests or whatever. But I can't say that there's been people that have been found because of the combine. Justin Herbert, he was, he got to show off his arm, and so it does help certain players, but it doesn't help everybody. Not everybody gets invited. This is one of those things. I think it's fun to watch, when they're talking about your team, but when they're not talking about your team, I get bored. I really do. One thing that's funny about the 40-yard dash to me is when Al Davis was alive, he'd take the newspaper and he'd take his finger and go down and find out whoever had the fastest 40. That was who the Raiders were drafting that year. So, I mean, for some teams, that's their mentality. They got to have those stats, but nobody figured that out with Brock Purdy. So there's diamonds in the rough, and Tom Brady, he fell through everybody's draft board. So it doesn't necessarily add up for everybody.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, if you go back to the Tom Brady story, I live in the Midwest. I knew every time he played for Michigan, Michigan was going to win, or he would find a way to get them close to a win. So that right there was more than enough to tell me he has a chance. I can't speak to, he looked the way he did there, and then you're like, that became the guy who went and won 3 Super Bowls that early in his career. Everyone was like, what the hell did we do to not, do more work and find out about him as an example. I mean, I can't, or how they couldn't find Marcus Colston, the former Saints receiver, early. They said he was a 6'3" receiver, and then he gained, grew a little more and then filled out his body when he was playing at Hofstra. So, I mean, look at all these combines for sports. I mean, we could say, let's say for an example, if Scottie Pippen didn't grow 6 or 7 inches after his freshman year of college, would he have been a first-round NFL draft pick? Just throwing it out there, he was 6'1", grew to 6'7", 6'8", and we all know the rest is history, at least with the Bulls.
So
So,
if our kind of consensus is we don't really like the draft, like, to me, I think things like the 40 nowadays are causing teams to make bad decisions. They're going,
Hufanga.
oh, look at that time. Yeah, that's the exact opposite. People are thinking, oh, he's nothing because of his 40 time. He recorded one of the fastest times in the year. You know what I'm saying? How do you get that when you're the slowest 40? It's because of what happens. Hufanga was training on how to play a football. That's what he was training for. He wasn't training to sprints. He was this and that. He was with, he was trying to be a better football player. When these other guys come in, they run these blisterings because all they've been doing is running sprints. They get down there, been working with a track coach. Why are they working with a track coach? They're a football player because they're trying to get better at this one little thing so it can make them millions more dollars, which I totally understand. But when it comes down to the team, I don't think it benefits them. And if it doesn't benefit them, it doesn't benefit anybody, really, because then they start having doubt on this. Then they start going, well, maybe we shouldn't pay certain, like maybe we shouldn't pay wide receivers as much coming out of the gate because all these guys are spending these first round picks on, they're not landing. You know what I mean? They're not this and that because those were the guys that just decided to run the 40, get the track coach. You know what I mean? Not necessarily all of them. You got to have hands, obviously, to be a first round draft pick. But, if you get that blistering speed and you're average, all of a sudden you're to the front of the pack. I just think we could do something else that can help teams evaluate skill and all that and do it in a better way. And one of the things I came up with is, what if you had like 4 Senior Bowls? You broke all the teams in certain divisions and this and that, and you did, 2 weeks with one group of guys, 2 weeks with another group of guys, 2 weeks with another group of guys, and 2 weeks with another group of guys, right? You could have different coaching, different teams in on each game or whatever it is, but you could have it so now you could see these guys working with other players that they haven't worked with before, working on new stuff that they haven't done before. You can see how they process it all real time. Plus, you can get behind the scenes to see if when they wake up early, if they get aggravated at their fellow players. Oh, what's up, Raphael? You get aggravated at their fellow players, pop off at them, and then, can't even be man enough to go back later and be like, hey, sorry for being an asshole earlier. I was tired. You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of stuff that, you can figure out by being in on these type of games. What do you think? If we were going to replace the combine, what would you replace it with? Bryant, you go first.
I like your idea. Maybe many bowl games, a couple of them, and maybe like you were saying, maybe we could rotate them. So like it could start out, like the West could have the South teams, and then we could rotate, just do like a right hand rotation where this group of players is going to be moving this way, and then these coaches over here in this area are going to get to see them, and then just until it's done, or you're going to just have to make it a little bit bigger. Maybe I think that the real thing is these players have to really, they have to play. It's not about just let's see how high the guy can jump or how fast he can. I'm not sold on these players going out there and throwing to their buddies. I like to see them throw to people that they have no chemistry with, and let's see if
In
that wide
workout
receiver.
gear.
Yeah, like I can take my buddy who I've been throwing footballs to, since the third grade, and me and him can go out and we can look really good. I mean, like we got chemistry. I know how far I can throw the ball to him. He knows how high he can jump. We have that. But when you have that's not what you're going to have when you're going to the NFL. You're going to have players that are going to come off the bench that you've never played with before, and you're going to just have to make it work. You got to have that it factor. So, like, I don't want to get too political or anything like that crazy, but like with Kaepernick coming out and he's throwing to his group of guys, that's not realistic to me. That's not sure. Those guys can run out and catch, but are those guys trying out for the Niners too? No, only this guy's trying out. So I want to see the same like intangibles, the same mentality for all these guys. I need to go out there and catch every ball that's coming to me because I don't know who's throwing me the ball. So like if they made it maybe if college came out and had like a mini I don't know, let's make a couple real quick, and then these guys can go out and let's see what they can do and have a mini preseason or a mini college league, and then maybe these guys can get paid too, and they can make a little bit of money before, so there's no risk of them going out there for free, but I don't know. That'd be so let's see them compete a little bit more, maybe a little bit more, even if it's flag football or something. Let's see them play against each other more.
David, what do you think?
I think what Bryant says is actually making sense, because a pro day, you're throwing to someone that you throw to all the time, so it's kind of like the Senior Bowl, those guys got to go out there. They got to start throwing the ball. They got to start playing against guys that they're not used to. And, that's just life in the NFL. So let's get more games like the Senior Bowl, maybe even split it up between how the nation is and, split the nation into 6 different sections. Let's have 6 Senior Bowls, and then we're able to see more players versus the guys they choose to invite to the combine. I've never liked that because then there's always someone left out that ends up being really good, But can you guys? How's my sound? I switched earbuds this time.
It's
Still the
bad.
same. All right.
It might even be worse. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Ekim, what do you think?
Yeah, multiple games like that with the players from different areas sounds like potentially the best idea. I mean, to me, within reason, most teams know who the top prospects are within reason. I believe one of the more famous stories is when Randy White and Walter Payton were that same year. All the teams that were bad, the offensive coaches wanted Walter Payton.
Never had a problem.
Coaches wanted Randy White. Just saying. I mean, I'm not. Who knows which players will eventually pan out? Nobody knows. It's always a roll of the dice on who they think will be. Could be the next Joe Montana or be someone who flames out after 2 seasons. I mean, to me, they always said what they never do is they never look at and examine the player's drive or motivations or what's in his heart. I mean, Steve Mariucci said, yeah, we never thought about what was inside of Tom Brady's heart and see what he can do and what motivated him and pushed him. I mean, it would have been nice to see him in a 49ers uniform, but hey, here's what it is. So,
is there any real need to do like the workout portion of that? Is that something that needs to be done around people, do you think? Or in chat, please let me know what you think on this too. Does this need to be done in the room, or can this be done by and somebody who goes to a college campus and works out essentially every single one in the room, you know what I mean? They can record that and then, pass it back to the NFL Network, and NFL Network can, have all that specific footage for that player, especially when they do the draft and they want to show everything. They can show all the clips of him doing all that. They can do great montages with it. You know what I mean? They don't really have a lot of film of everybody doing the thing, but for some reason they seem to think that they want, the cameras doing all this. But if you can have cameras doing all this stuff and more, why not just switch it over? What's your
Yeah,
thoughts?
exactly. I would agree with that.
Yeah, like I'm trying to figure out what's the real get everybody in one room. I understand you want to talk to people. Can you just have a seminar where all these people show up and they just come in and do interviews? You know what I mean? And you could get probably a lot more done without them having to stand in line, wait to do these tests, do all this and that. You could just get them all in one room for one day, essentially, and then move them out to different office buildings where the teams are and, do certain interviews. Do that for a couple of days. Line up interviews with each team. You know what I mean? I don't see why it needs to be done.
Yeah, Brian made a good point, and this is the middle of when they do the combine. It's in the middle of there's no more games, or at least no more active games until the preseason. So they're just trying to unintentionally fill up airtime with something quasi related to the game that will get people talking about, something for the next season.
We'll talk about who's interviewing what players. You know what I mean? You're going to have all this tape. Make it so, when the players get interviewed those 2 days, make sure all the workout tapes had to be submitted. So as you're sitting there going through, you're saying, "Oh, the 49ers, the Raiders, the blah blah blah, the blah blah blah, talk to this person." And then you can show all the tape of him lifting the weights. You can show all the highlight reels of him making the catches all year long. You know what I mean? To me, I think you can actually get more content out of it. You could probably talk about it for a week or two. You know what I mean? And have brand new content every time you go live. Because there's how many people in the draft? You know what I'm saying? You could start at number, what? Brock Purdy was what number? 262?
Yeah.
So there's 262 people. You could spend 5 to 10 minutes on each person, which is, hold on. Let's do the math on this. 5 to 10 on each person. 5 times 262, 1360. So 1360 divided by 60. Oops, I'm multiplying. That's not right.
In the background, I'm watching a hockey game of a team I can't stand, but there's nothing else to.
So you're talking about 21, almost 22 hours.
That's easy for the NFL Network. That should be.
That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about 22 straight hours, no commercial break, nothing, just talking. And that's 5 minutes each person. You could have 5 minutes of, some math skills. Sometimes we're really good with math. It's really weird. Sometimes we're really good with math. I take it as a competition to do the math. Well, addition and subtraction. I don't try and do any I don't take pride in doing any multiplication or division. Yeah.
Hey, to tap in on what you guys were saying, I really I like that idea. Get the guys together. Maybe like a hotel or something like that. Each team has a different room. They call different guys, like a big junction. And then this doesn't all have to be televised either. Like this could be more on the side. And the same thing with the players don't necessarily have to go and lift weights and stuff like that at one place. You can do that where a college facility has somebody office to videotape and 3 different times. Okay, you can lift this amount of weight, this many times, and whichever one's your squat, whichever is your best shape, and send that to the combine.
Yeah, I thought his connection was going out a little bit. By the way, I was talking. Dave, what's up?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm clear, but I'm going to sound like I'm in an empty room because I'm on my weird mic. But
It's better.
it's
I
better.
don't know. What
Okay, well, we'll just roll with it.
We're gonna roll with it. So I don't know if you heard, but I was talking about, like, could they just do the Senior Bowls? But then I was saying for like the weightlifting portion, couldn't just be videotaping people? Couldn't you send a couple dozen people out around the United States to all the college campuses and just have them, record the football players that are in the draft, just record all their stats right there in their weight room, and then go and go and pass it off.
Better. Hold on. It would be better than the combine because, I think I said this a couple times. I'm not a big fan of let's invite these players, but we're not going to invite these players. Dude, come on. The NFL scouts are scouting everybody. They're looking at little colleges. They're trying to find talent under a rock.
Yeah.
Huh?
I was just letting everybody know they got the link to call in is in the chat.
But yeah, these guys are they're scouring the college ranks. It doesn't matter where they find it as long as they find it. So I don't see a problem with sending a bunch of guys to a bunch of weight rooms. Then you could truly see what the guys at the little colleges that pretty much on tape they look like men versus boys. We could see what those guys can do. That's kind of Burford actually. He come from a small college, he tore it up, and a lot of NFL teams didn't. Were kind of iffy on him. That's why he fell as far as he did. But I'm glad we got him. And Zakel, we don't even know what the guy can do because he hasn't hit the field yet. So, I mean, we always seem to redshirt rookies. It's just the Shanahan way. I mean, Mike Shanahan did the same thing.
Yeah. Like I said, Burford's the only person I know. What up, Damien?
Tommy. Yep, Tommy saying the sound of his ass. Oh, great. Is it doing the same thing again, or is it
David?
Does it sound like
No, it's doing the same thing, but don't worry about it. Tommy, don't make him feel self-conscious. He's been in and out of the chat the whole time trying to get it right. I feel bad for him, so I'll just stop. Appreciate you jumping in though, Tommy.
But here's another argument against the combine. How many football players have been found that never even put pads on until they got to the NFL, or maybe only played for a year at college? I mean, they found Antonio Gates was found, he was a 6'4" basketball player, and usually those, they're not the tallest guys on that field, but on a football field, they're bigger guys. And who else can I think of? I think a couple of the Cowboy players, past Cowboy players, some receivers. I think I can't remember the name. Maybe Bob Hayes. Wasn't he a track star?
I don't know.
I believe that to be the case, but
yeah, he was a track star. Yeah, he was a track star.
So, as they say, sadly, there's many different ways to figuratively skin a cat and try to find players. So, I mean, one of the other things that I always think about is with quarterbacks, that Bill Parcells had a list of a criteria of several different things, and if the quarterbacks met them or met a good portion of them, he would consider drafting them. Like they had to be 3-year starters, throw 1,000 passes, had a good GPA, graduated, those kind of things. And his criteria would find and hit on 50% of the quarterbacks drafted based on his criteria, which, with these teams, what's the percentage of quarterbacks they hit on that they draft? What, maybe 5%? Some real low number? I mean, was Bill Parcells' criteria a perfect one? There's no such thing as, I can look 10 years in the future and say, I'm projecting this guy to be Joe Montana. Or we know that he'll be the next Ronnie Lott. I don't know that. I mean, it is a flaky business per se, so.
Damien.
Well, Kim,
what's your
this
thought?
is my thing. This is I would do. I would, like I was telling Lawrence last night. If I'm gonna get somebody for 4 years, they have to be major competition, because I think at the stage our team is at right now, we need people that has experience, that have been starters for 4 years, that have played and kept their game upright. I mean, like, that's why I like that Stetson Bennett quarterback from Georgia. And
Problem with
Brock was a quarterback for 4 years. I mean, right now, like, we just need, we don't, like, this draft, we don't need a lot of talent. We just need the right talent. We need like 4 or 5 pieces. And like, what I would do is, like, when the free agent come out, I want Darren Payne, and I want what's that? And that center, Bradley Boozman. After that, the draft will take care of the rest. But we just need people that can fill in for spaces right now. We're not far off. We're not the Rams. We're not Arizona. We're not the Cowboys. We just need certain pieces. We don't need a lot, really.
Here's the one thing that is diluting the talent coming into the NFL is it's a 3-year rule that the NFLPA said you have to be 3 years out of high school to become a prospect for the draft. Because now a lot of these players, they have to be coached up and taught more because they didn't have all the experience playing. Not saying that you can't find a great player, like a Trevor Lawrence, but he graduated in 3 years and had nothing left to prove at Clemson. So, I mean, there's always examples that can counteract that, but how many players have they? I mean,
yes, Kim.
He's talking trash about you, Bennett here, Tommy. He's saying without that running game in the defense, he's middle of the road. Damien, what's your thoughts about the combine? Is it worth having?
Yes, I think it is, because I mean, you get to find if you. I mean, the combine is important if you have the right person that's doing the job of looking. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can always find that diamond in the rough if you have the right guy who's actually doing the looking. I mean, you can't have some, like, willy-nilly go say, hey, go find me this. No, you gotta have somebody experienced to go say, okay, this is what I'm looking for. Because it's like the lotto. You're not gonna hit all the time. But if you find that 1 or 2 pieces, that's all you need. I mean, right now we don't need that much. So I think the combine is important. I think
What if we had multiple Senior Bowls? So you could, because like one of the 49ers' biggest success was the year that they were able to take part in the Senior Bowl, and they were able to get their hands on some of these guys before they drafted them and see what kind of players they were. So what if we had like 3-4 senior bowls with different players, and each team could kind of get in there and kind of figure out who these guys are on the spot, kind of real world. Not only can you see their speed real life, because my thing is like my biggest thing to point at is, I brought it up earlier, is the 40 times. I haven't seen any one of these blistering 40 times translate into on the field
I would get
in
rid of
the
that.
last couple
I would
years.
get rid of that. That's for track. That's for track and soccer. I would get rid of that.
Well, what are they
I
doing
mean,
that out there in workout gear anyways? Put on the pads. Put on the pads. Get down in a 3-point, get up in a 2-point, whatever your position describes. And like me personally, offensive lineman, like your 10-yard splits were really what I want to know about. Your 10 yards, but I actually I only care about what your first 3 steps are at. You know what I mean? Like if I want to know what your speed is at after your first 3 steps. After that, it really doesn't matter because that's how fast you can get off the line. You know?
I really like that point you made right there. Let's do the 40 time in pads. Let's see how fast you are with the helmet on and with your thigh pads on, and let's see you running down there in cleats and your socks, everything. Like let's see how fast you really are in a game situation. Because when you're running down there in shorts and a tank top, you don't hardly got anything on.
It's damn near boxer briefs. They like.
Yeah.
It's revealing as underwear. You know what I'm saying? It's made to be what light as possible. So what they can go fast, more movement. You know what I mean? That's not what football gear is. You know what I mean? It's apples to oranges.
I have an idea for that. Why don't they have them play all these college players who's going to the pros when they do their tryouts? Try out against like a low level NFL player, like a 3rd-year veteran. So they can see where they stand. That's how I would do it.
NFLPA wouldn't allow it.
Would you guys be in favor of like a mini league, like kind of how baseball does it, like a farm team?
Yes. Support that.
I've been saying we need that anyways, and one of my biggest things is for the refs. Year round. You know what I mean? You got not only that, but you've got someone for the wait, hold on. You know what I mean? Sorry. you know what I mean? You got a team to pull from. Not only you, but other teams. It's a team where you could be training people. Some of these people, like look at Trey Lance, right? He needs
reps.
He needs experience. Yeah, he needs reps. So it'd be like, okay, Trey, you know what I mean? It could have been you run the scout offense for this first year behind Jimmy, and then during the spring, you go be the starter on the spring ball. And then when you come back the next year, you'll have essentially had 2 seasons worth of playing. You know what I mean? And you can go take over then. I think it's way better for the I don't know what I mean. Oh, what up,
I
Jesse?
agree.
Everybody take a drink.
I keep throwing it in there now. What up, Jesse? Man, she's been covering some really breaking news lately. I'll tell you what. Him and Ryan Hensley breaking the news about Jimmy still being. Now, this is my question. I just don't know what Kyle knew. Like it's hard to know, like when the doctor said, "Hey, Jimmy should be good right now." You know what I mean? Like there we go again, you know what I mean? Oh, geez, he's got me in a box. So yeah. I just think that when like
Hey
the
man.
doctor say, go ahead.
Okay.
What's
So I heard that Jimmy was cleared and he could have actually suited up.
So he was
My
Well,
mic still
he was-
sounds like that.
Well, he was cleared, but he was walking around with a boot like 9 days earlier.
That's the thing is, what's the real story here? You know,
Yeah.
What I understand, the pictures that I seen of them going from like the bus through the gate and walking, like past the garage or whatever it is, and all of them gathered, and you see Jimmy at the end. He didn't look like he had a boot on. He looked like he was walking slow. He kind of looked like he was dragging his feet, but there was a crowd of guys there too. So you can't be like walking like or marching super fast. You have to go with the flow of the crowd. So for me, I felt at that moment when I seen him, I looked at Tony, my wife, and I said, "Hey, I think he might have an opportunity to suit up this game." And then at that point, that's the question: when did he say, "I'm not ready," or "I can't play," or "I'm not suiting up"? Because that was like Thursday or Friday that the Niners were there and coming off the bus, and he had. I think he made a game time decision. I think he probably could have played, and I think that's probably why Kyle's pissed at him, because he could have been in there.
That's the only thing that makes sense, because like, to me, as a you can't get mad at a guy for saying it hurts. You know what I mean? It hurts too much. You know what I mean? It's just not something you could do. You know what I mean? Because you don't know. You know what I mean? And if you do that, you're just going to look like an ass to everybody else. So it's like, what did Kyle know? You know what I mean? Like, that's like, to make any kind of assumption, you kind of got to know what Kyle knew, because
Ryan,
was it a game time thing? Yo,
I remember 1993, because I stay in Texas. I remember when Emmitt Smith had his broken shoulder, played against the New York Giants and got the Cowboys into the Super Bowl. So I mean, people play hurt, and I remember that game because I remember that game. I was 15 at that time, and I remember watching Emmitt. They braced him up, they covered up, they wrapped him up so he could take the blows, and he was playing running back.
Yeah.
So,
well, but
Emmitt
Smith's a real man. You know what I mean? First and foremost. But
and I'm a Niner fan, and I'm a Niner fan, and I defend Emmitt on that one.
Oh yeah. Well, Emmitt was no punk. You could hate the fact that he was a Cowboy, but he was no punk. You know what I mean? Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, yeah, they might have been punks, but Emmitt was a man.
So when I see like Jimmy, smiling and walking around, limping around, not sucking it up, that's not no good.
I want to say this, and I don't want it to sound like I'm defending him. So just everybody just listen to me for a second. And I don't want, remember, this isn't in Jimmy's defense, but just in my perspective, if Jimmy would have played and won, would he have gotten any credit? Don't answer that. Okay, just think about it. If he would have went to the Super Bowl and the Niners would have won, would he have gotten any credit? Don't answer that. Now, if he would have played and lost, would he have been blamed for that? If he would have went to the Super Bowl and lost, would he have been blamed for that? And then if he would have just got hurt in either one of those games, would it have been beneficial for Jimmy? Because with this same mentality, what percentage, Jimmy winning the Super Bowl or not winning the Super Bowl, do you guys think reality he'd be on the team next year? I think everything points to him being out the door and him making just this financial decision. It's like, hey, I'm not going to be the hero in this situation. If I get hurt, they're not going to have my back. That's what I perceive. But that's just that's not what. And I don't want to sound like I'm defending him at all. But that's what I think.
But this is what you got to understand, Bryant. If you tell him, hey, when you get hurt, I won't be back the rest of this season, right? If you tell them then and there, then you could totally make that decision without any sort of repercussion. Because what are you doing? You're giving them a lot of time to prepare, right? But when you leave it up in the air and they think, oh, we got a chance, and they keep you on the IR and, make it so somebody else can't come on the IR who could have been helpful in our defensive line. Oh, we got some backer. We got an echo. Let's see.
I would have to push back a little bit with that, Ryan, because
Hold on. We gotta.
there's been multiple
go here.
statements where Kyle said, "Oh, we don't know when he's coming."
What's up? Push back on the fact that oh, this echo is killing me. Somebody is. Who is it? Hello.
Hey,
Oh, it might be Damien. Hey, Damien. Damien.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna mute him for a second until he can come back. Oh, what up, Mariah? But what I was saying is like, if you leave it open for you to come back, and then at the last second you go decide, no, I don't want to, right? What is up with that? Like,
yeah, I agree 100%.
That's not cool. Yeah, because they're essentially tying up resources, trying to keep you around for you to come in and potentially save the day if need be. You know what I mean? They're tying up resources, and they're not planning for another route because they've already got you. You know what I mean? And everything's lining up, and they're just gonna kind of keep riding with it. So, I don't have a problem with Jimmy G making a business decision. I have no issues with that. What I have is it last minute while you were selling him down the road the whole time, telling him that you weren't going to do that. That's the problem that I have. And it seems like that's exactly what went down. I think to the point people are like, they saw Jimmy in a boot 9 days beforehand. And if he was totally cleared and all this and that, I think Jimmy was wearing this boot just to make Kyle not ask questions if you were going to actually do it, so he didn't have to tell him, no, I'm gonna just make a business decision, which I think is ridiculous. It's like walking around with crutches and nothing's wrong with you. You know what I mean? You got a neck brace.
Yeah, I agree. Like, if that was really what happened, that's horrible, But the other thing I do have to say is like Kyle has said that his injury recovery time is going to be this, and we're expecting him back at this time. And then he's come back out and said, "Oh no, it's going to be this time." And then they said it 3 different times, his injury recovery time. He's going to be first week of the playoffs, second week, and then he might be ready for the Super Bowl. So at that point, I'm like, okay, so we got Purdy right now. If we get to the Super Bowl, is Jimmy going to be the starter? No, Purdy's playing really good, right? So then, as that kept going on, did Jimmy start thinking, I'm not going to even, I'm not going to suit up. Purdy's their guy right now. That's not the type of mentality we want as a Niner. We want somebody who wants to, take over and win, when they're needed. Even if they're not the starting guy for that game, they still are going to step up. So again, like I didn't see the boot when he was coming, through the at nighttime when the whole team was coming off the bus. I didn't see the boot. I didn't see the boot in the game. So if he had a boot on, man, goodbye, Jimmy. Goodbye. But other than that, yeah, again, what I was just gonna say again is we don't really know what the mentality or the timetable for him to come back was, and Kyle kept pushing that back, saying, "Oh, well, he should be ready to practice or he should be healthy, but he hasn't played or practiced." So, do we want a rusty Jimmy in there again? I'm not defending him, but we're not going to find out until somebody writes a book like 5 years from now.
Is this what Jimmy was saying that one time? Remember that? Your schemes fucking suck. Remember that clip of him talking? Everybody's like, what is he saying? That was, yeah. That might have been true. Yeah, Damien. Sorry, we were talking and there was a hell of an echo coming from you, and I tried to get your attention.
So I'm just hopefully they finally move on from him and just take the 3rd round comp pick. I'm not gonna. That saga's lasted as long as it's needed to. But
That's what Mariah thinks. Is he said, "Is these plays suck, man."
yeah. So
I thought it was fucking suck. These plays fucking
Yeah.
suck. I swear there was an F word in there.
So on to the next topic. What do you think the 49ers are going to get in the draft? To me, if McGlinchey is getting big money, thank you, wish you well. And I think they still need defensive line help.
Yeah, I think they in free agency. I think they're gonna pick up an interior defensive man. I don't know who it'll be. I have a feeling they're too cheap to pay Payne. It might not be on the books with Bosa. Who know? Some people are talking about restructure. I think who brought this up? I think Aaron brought this up that he found on Twitter, and Rohan was talking it. So if you can find the thread, there you go. But he's saying there's a move if we restructure about 2 guys. There's a move we could make for 1 key free agent piece. Like a splash move. We might be able to make 1 splash move, sign Bosa, and then do all our other little normal free agent hires and sign our free or our draft picks. But as far as the draft, I think we move up to the 2nd, get an edge. You know how Kyle is. Always get an edge first, essentially. Then I think we get right tackle. But he won't start. I don't know if it'll go in that order. I don't know if right tackle will be the 2nd pick. It might even be the 3rd or 4th pick, because I think our next right tackle's on the team already. But they will get another right tackle to see if he can do better later. You know what I mean? Because everybody they like to redshirt guys. So be like, hey, the guy that we drafted last year is going to play this year. If he doesn't do good, then hopefully the guy we draft this year who gets redshirted this year might be able to play next year. So I think that's the idea. But sure.
I'm gonna have to
After
get going.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have to get
Thanks
going
for
after
popping
this.
in.
No problem. I'll try to contribute when I can. Maybe I'm not able to come on every week, but at least I'll try to do my best to come on every few weeks.
You know it, man.
So
Appreciate it.
Always good talking to you, Ken.
yeah, nice talking to you too, Bryant, and everybody else on the joining in on the group chat. But my thing is if you look on the Kansas City Chiefs this year, I'm just using this as an example. They had 6 rookies that actually contributed to their team this year. Why can't we have those kind of things? Because you're telling me that you gave the big money contracts to some certain players, and I'm never going to begrudge any player getting the money when they can. It's a short playing window, and you got to try to get paid. But I mean, we can't be doing those kind of things. I know that Patrick Mahomes is getting paid, a big amount of money every year, but they can still find players that are able to play their roles and do it at a reasonably competent level. And we can't do that, or we don't want to do that. So,
I think that's
one last
smart,
question.
though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
One last question to you, Ryan. Who do you see actually getting the 5th-year option? Do you see I see Ayuk getting it, definitely.
Yeah.
Kinlaw, I say no.
No.
But those are the only 2 players I could think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, those were the only ones picked in the 1st round there.
Yeah.
I don't.
At this point, they're the only 2.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. My only problem with Kinlaw was he had that known injury, and they still went up and got him. I don't
Oh,
blame Kinlaw.
dude.
I can't blame Kinlaw for the 49ers brass selecting him where they did.
Like,
When they should have
that
learned from.
Yeah. I am not in favor of trading somebody away and then using that same pick to get the same position, because especially if it's like a high pick, you're talking about trading away this person to try and get that out of the same pick. It's never going to work. It's probably never going to work out well for anybody. You know what I mean? Just that should have been an offensive lineman, should have been a corner, should have been something like that. Put it somewhere else to where you could be like, oh, see, and especially don't give them the same fucking number. You know what I'm saying? You give them the same fucking number, and then you can use the same fucking pick, and then you get oh god, the exact opposite of the production out of him. And I wasn't even saying he needed to be a sack monster. I was just saying you gotta oh shit, what up, Wolf? You got to command a double team on the pass rush, and you gotta be a run stuffer. It's not hard to do, and he couldn't do that. He had glimpses, he had flashes, but oh man, this guy could stink up a perfume factory. Holy shit.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. You guys have a nice weekend.
Hey, you have a wonderful weekend. Oh, hey, you watching the game?
Depends.
Who do you think's gonna win?
I'll just take Philadelphia because they said since 1990, late 1990s, the NFL MVP hasn't won the Super Bowl since then. Not saying that means a hill of beans. Mahomes could throw 500 yards and 5 touchdowns and win the game for Kansas City. But
Yeah.
Philadelphia has a lot of pass rushers, and we know what happens when what Tampa did to Kansas City in that one Super Bowl with 2 pass rushers, 2 really good pass rushers. With understanding that Kansas City had a depleted line, but you can't use that as an excuse.
Yep.
Bebop, yes, yes. I'm watching the Super Bowl.
Oh. Yes, I'm also watching it with my sister and her husband.
Well, I don't call it the Super Bowl. I call it the Super Bowl.
Oh, there you go.
I don't like either team, So
I can't figure out who I think is going to win.
I think it's I believe, isn't the line a pick'em line?
I don't know. All I know is that I start thinking about what we saw on that defensive line, and then I think about how Niners, like, wide receivers are really, really sold on the fact that they knew how to exploit the Eagles secondary. You know what I'm saying? So like I go in between going that and then, going, but if they can't exploit it, then the Chiefs are screwed. So then the Eagles are going to win. But I'm like, but if Patrick Mahomes, can beat Patrick Mahomes, then they got a chance. So it's like it goes between there being something in the secondary, which Bo Samuel actually pointed out on somebody's show earlier today or yesterday. I think it was yesterday. That the play that Brock Purdy was injured on, he's saying, look, Brandon Ayuk's 5 yards open, running running in the middle of the field. He's like, we figured out how to do it. We just couldn't throw the ball to anybody after that play. You know what I'm saying? Like, our scheme was in operation. You know what I mean? Like, it was working. All he had to do was have another half a second, and Brandon Ayuk would have scored. He didn't say score, but you know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know.
Well, game's over with now. We can cry about it, but it ain't going to change the result. So, all right, you guys all have a nice weekend.
You too, buddy.
Yeah, you too. Take
Thank
it
you, sir.
easy. Thanks for calling in,
Yep.
sir.
No problem, sir.
And Damien, if you want to call back in, feel free. The chat, the link is in the description. Or else I can actually probably just drop it in here again. Yeah, it was nothing against you, sir. It was just that it was kind of a deafening echo. It was throwing everybody off. I was trying to have you mute
Well,
yourself.
you know,
while you
my
were-
sound is junk, I guess. I don't even know why. I don't typically have problems with it. It's kind of weird.
Bro, like, I'm just glad I don't have a. Last night I was having a hell of a delay, and I just get hella annoyed when I got a delay because it never goes right, and I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like, this is, you know what I mean? So as long as it's not a delay, that's why I was like, the crackling is what it is. As long as I could understand what you're saying, you know what I mean? We're good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't mess around with Restream too often, and I think that maybe my phone don't like it or something. I don't know, but it's popped me in and out a couple times. So,
It could be your connection.
Yeah, I'm normally on StreamYard, so
I
I don't know if
I
that
just
I don't know if that makes a difference or not. You know, if I have like mic issues on StreamYard, typically what I do is I jump out, jump back in, and it fixes itself. But it didn't do that tonight.
there could be something where maybe like Restream doesn't back up like you know how like YouTube, if your data goes down, it'll back it up on their end to kind of make sure you can watch the video properly. Like NFL Plus, they don't do that. So like when anything goes wrong, you have to wait, and they're just like, yeah, deal with it. They really don't care. They don't care about their viewers' viewing experience. It's like Comcast owned a sports league. Oh.
yeah, I think you guys are right though. I think Brandon Ayuk and Debo, they found some weaknesses inside the Eagles defense and thought they could really exploit it. And I think everybody's heart fell out when they figured out that they don't have a quarterback that can throw the ball. Even when Josh Johnson was in, he was throwing the ball at people's ankles and knees. And I mean, for the guy to be a veteran as long as he was and on our team for as many times as he's been on, and him not be ready, I know we were holding out hope for Jimmy to come back in, but for that guy who's supposed to be the backup at any given moment because he's healthy, isn't ready for the game, that's upsetting.
I'm laughing
kinda
in a big city. I hope it ends in a tie. Oh, that's funny.
I got a question. Is it essentially on Kyle anyways because Josh Johnson was the backup? Is there anybody you
What
think
was
he coulda-
available? So I was looking at available quarterbacks, and it's like there were a couple solid veterans, not signed, but they went with Josh Johnson because they're familiar with him, and he's familiar with the system.
Yeah, but they know he's
But-
ass.
Like we had Jake practice squad, So when it comes down to it, we didn't have to go with Dante Johnson. We could have just promoted Jacob Eason, signed, one of those veterans like I think Matt Moore was a free agent. He's a solid backup to the practice squad and carried on with something different. Josh Johnson did not look like he was ready to go in a game. And a backup QB's job is to be ready.
Josh Johnson looked like he plays wide receiver and was thrown in at quarterback. He didn't look like he didn't look like he knew what the hell was going on. He was not ready for that moment whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what I think too. I don't think he was ready. I don't think he was
Holy
expecting to have to
Jesus.
go. and for
How
you to
can
be the backup quarterback at any
how
given
can that
time.
that complete statement be an understatement? You know what I mean? Like that's a complete statement. There's no fat on that, but it's a total understatement because he totally, yeah, deer in the headlights, Bebop. Holy Jesus.
I mean that snap when he's looking at the D line to see who's coming, versus focusing on catching the football. Because one thing that's like when a wide receiver's looking downfield as they're trying to catch the ball. You got to do step one before you do step two.
Yeah, I'm just very. There were several quarterbacks. David mentioned a couple people. I've mentioned a couple people talking with him on other streams, and Cam Newton. He could have at least snapped the ball and done quarterback sneaks. I mean, he could have done something. You could have maybe talked to Drew Brees for just being the backup quarterback. You could have talked to Philip Rivers. I know, say,
It's
his arm was
magic.
done, but Fitzmagic, I love Fitzmagic. The only thing I was concerned about is that he retired because of his abdominal stomach or something like that. He had an injury to his stomach, and he was in the booth. But I would have loved to see. They could have talked to him. There were so many options, but for you to go after another Kyle Guy, and I'm not putting anybody down, but like Tevin Coleman, Kyle Guy, Josh Johnson, Kyle Guy. I mean, like, are you trying to get your guys to win a Super Bowl, or are you trying to win a Super Bowl? Because at a certain point, these could be your friends, but they might not be the best option out there. And I think it does go on Kyle. Your quarterback, your backup quarterback speaker malfunctioned. So who's the equipment manager? Who's at fault for that? I mean, there's too many intangibles. And me and Davis talked about it before too. You should have more practice time. You should have more training camp time. You should maybe not everybody agrees to this, but more preseason games. The guys need reps. You can't just give all of your reps to your first string quarterback and say, "Oh, second string quarterback, good luck." No, that's not how you win games, and that's not how people stay healthy. If you put a player into a position, or even a worker, anybody like starting a job, if they go into the assembly line and they don't know what they're doing, they're either gonna catch fire or they're gonna be caught on fire, right? You have to have some kind of like mentality going in that, hey, we need to be ready. And I don't think the Niners were ready. I don't think they were ready at all. Not for worst case scenario.
No, that's not at all. I had a question. You were talking about more preseason games, this and that. I've heard some players say that the combined practices are better than the games as far as learning stuff and getting better. So what if we did that? What if we did every preseason game was attached to combined practices? You know what I mean? 3 days of practice with a team and then a game and then fly back home. You know what I mean? What if you did that? You could get more games, but at the same time, or you have your 3 preseason games. Let's do 4 preseason games now. Let's do 2 bye weeks. Let's do 18 weeks this in the regular season. But yeah, let's make it longer, but let's also increase some of that practice time because it's the only way teams and offenses have that clicking now. They're taking away the PLA is taking away practice time in the preseason, and it's causing the offenses to suffer. So I think having these combined practices with the games, I think that's going to help them out.
Yeah, I agree. I love that idea. I love adding more preseason games because fans can go and see it. Maybe they can drop the prices down for preseason games so more fans can go, and maybe even make preseason. Depending on how you finish your season, your record, your preseason record, maybe give them some kind of like incentive, like, hey, not just money, but maybe like make it where, hey, you have the tiebreaker going into the division or something like that if everybody finishes at the same record or something. But and the other thing that I was thinking is while you're speaking, what if they were to have a preseason game and then 3 days, practice 3 days after that? So like you go into the preseason game fresh, nobody knows anything, and then you get the practice time the 3 days afterwards, and then you go play a different preseason team, and then you do
Well,
that again. You practice with that team 3 days
there's
after your game. Would
there's
you
two
be
reasons.
interested in
There's
that?
two reasons I don't like that. I would rather practice against somebody for 3 days, them see most of what I do, and then during the game try to beat them after they pretty much know everything that I do. Then that it gives me a little better. It gives me more of
You
a
want to
feat.
practice what you
I,
you want to
I'm
see what your test results are
as a coach, I want
against.
to be tested myself. Yeah. As a coordinator, like I need to test what I could do, and the best way to do is kind of give them a little bit of a cheat code. But also at the same time, I get to see what they've been doing in practice. So it kind of gives me, it gets my mind working on how I dissect their team. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Also, I don't want anything to happen during the game and then it come out in the practices. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess my
Practice.
thoughts on that would be backwards in a sense, because if you play the preseason game, nobody's jumping hot routes, nobody's anticipating anything, everybody's fresh. You're really going in with a clean slate. And then yeah, if anybody plays hot and gets mad, then that could lead into the practices moving forward. But that I would say that would be up to the coordinators and the coaches to say, hey, you're too hot headed. We need you off the field right now. No one's trying to get hurt like that. We're practicing against another professional
Well,
team. But
I
I
got
agree.
you, but that doesn't stop in the middle of something that's happening. And in practice, that's not regulated by like the league. That's regulated by the teams. So like if somebody got all hot during practice and they retaliated during the game, the refs can take it. The refs can take action on it. You know what I mean?
But they
So it's
still get
kind of
fined when they fight. They still get fined. The teams fine them and the league fines them too.
well, the
Especially
team can fine them, but the team doesn't necessarily have to.
yeah.
It depends on the team.
Oh,
Some teams have that in their rule book. Other teams they don't care. Other teams they do what they want whenever they want.
I'm down.
Oh,
I'm down. Let them practice more. And then one thing too is I live in Stockton. Okay, so the training camp for the Niners moved from Rockland to Stockton, and Alex Spanos was the owner of the Chargers. And at the time, during the '90s, the late '90s, he potentially was in talks to try to buy the 49ers. He had the Chargers. He would have had to sell them at that time, but he was in talks. So he is a really one of the biggest components on why the Niners got moved to Stockton to play training camp, their summer camp at UOP. It didn't happen. We know he didn't buy the team, but a lot of that happened, and he was able to bring the Chargers from San Diego up to UOP, here in Stockton, and they did a lot of scrimmages like what you're talking about. So that was really exciting. They actually were going to have a preseason game. They turned out it was just a practice, but they sold tickets to everybody in Stockton. It was going to be like the 5th preseason game, the Niners versus the Chargers, and it just didn't turn out to be what they were advertising, but it was still cool. The Niners trained at UOP for a couple of years, and now they're back at Levi. Well, they're now at Levi's, which makes more sense for facilities, but it's really
yes and
interesting.
no, because people be dropping dead from heat. You know what I'm saying? In the stands. So you got the players out there running around in it. That might not be so necessarily good.
So did you
But
did you hear that too though? Like the beginning of the seasons and stuff like that, when the Niners, like, that's why we typically go on the road
yeah,
first
I've
couple
heard
of
that they've
games.
asked the league. They've asked the league to do road games or have night games, one or the other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And they can't build a
so
dome.
that's
They can't do anything to our stadium because we're too close to the airport.
well, can we thank Jed York for being such an idiot and taking the plans that you were going to build in Candlestick and just go, oh, it's just plug and play. And not just that, but that whole time they were complaining about the sound amplifying, like, that's built into the Seahawks stadium, right? And then what do? They don't even do it themselves. Like, how stupid is that? Like, to me,
That stadium is very upsetting.
oh, we got somebody popping in here. What up? What up? Eric,
going
you're
on?
on. What
How you
up?
doing?
Oh, Eric.
How you?
Oh, you there?
Okay.
Oh, we
How,
gotta wait
how
for
are
you.
y'all doing tonight?
Good, Eric. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Super Bowl.
Super bummed? Or Super Bowl?
No, yeah, Super Bowl.
Who you got?
Family in Missouri, so KC.
Gotcha. Are you a Chiefs fan normally?
Yeah.
Gotcha. What do you think? What do you think about that Eagles defensive line?
They're a tough bunch. They are very.
How many? Do you think the offense is going to have to run through Travis Kelce or Travis Kelce? Or are they gonna? Because the only thing I see is I see the Chiefs need to open up with their run game to make the pass rush of the Eagles kind of chill out for a second. Just that initial second so they can get a little bit of breathing room. So then Mahomes has time to start making some of them passes down the field. But I don't know if they can with it. Oh, Eric dropped out. Back again. Sorry, we lost you, Eric. David, what are your thoughts on the Super Bowl and the matchup with the Seahawks or the Chiefs versus the Eagles?
Well, you know, a lot of people pick the Bills and the Niners to start with, you know, before the season, and now we got the Chiefs versus the Eagles, and I honestly think the Chiefs are going to blow the brakes off of them. You know, I don't. You know, people say, yeah, the Eagles got that good defensive line. They got their sacks in big groups versus bad teams, and the Chiefs have a very, very good offensive line. You know, versus Tampa Bay, they had some injuries along that offensive line. They were missing some players, but now they're at full strength. And they're going against, you know, the best pass rush in the league. But, you know, the best pass rush in the league didn't play teams in the league. So they're a big question mark. You know, they knocked our QB out on the second drive, so we still don't know what would have happened if we actually would have had him. But at this point, I see the Chiefs blowing the brakes off of them, at least 2 scores.
Poor Eric seems to have connection issues. Bryant, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback a little bit off of what David was saying. I believe it's going to be the best quarterback in the league.
Oh no.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, Mahomes is a really good quarterback. Good quarterback. I wish he was a Niner, but he's not. I think the storyline is really going to be Mahomes versus the Eagles defensive line. It's not going to be, Hurts against the Chiefs defense. It's not the wide receivers against the Chiefs defense. It's Mahomes versus that defensive line. So if Mahomes got time, he's gonna tear them apart. So I think it's gonna be the Chiefs. I think the Eagles, they got a great defensive line, but I think the Niners could have won if we would have had a quarterback that was healthy. I'm not going to say the Eagles are a bad team. They deserve their wins. They deserve to be where they're at. You got to play the teams that are in front of you, whether or not they're the best teams or the worst teams. A win still counts. But I'm just not. I'm not going to say that they're going to go in and they're going to dominate Patrick Mahomes. At this point, Patrick Mahomes, he's the best quarterback. 1 foot or no foot, he's the dude can throw the ball, falling to the ground and still make it happen. So the Eagles definitely have their work cut out for them.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Eric, I didn't know that was you. I didn't know that was you, Eric. I just saw Eric. I was like, oh, Eric, we got an Eric in here. I didn't know that was our homie Eric. Man, everybody's dropping. Oh, man. Took a little big one there. What? Let's see. What have we not covered so far? David, let me ask you. I haven't talked to you about this. What's your thoughts on the hiring of Steve Wilks?
He was my choice because when it comes to defensive scheme, he runs like, was that the cover 3? And, our personnel group, that 100% fits it.
Yeah.
Big Fangio, however anyone wants to pronounce it, we do not have to run his team. He would have had to change what he does to match our personnel, so that wasn't a good match. I really like the hiring. Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was good too. I thought it was math. Like, it was a mathematical decision. It all equated to picking him. Like, you would have had to rearrange numbers to get Vic Fangio here. They're talking about going from a 4-3 to a 3-4. You know what I mean? Retooling. When you've got the whole defense, everybody on there is a killer. You know what I mean? For the most part, other than the D line, you know what I mean? Everybody's a killer. Why would you want to really mess all that up? And then you go from now needing 4 starting linebackers where, Aziz leaving, you're going to what? Bosa's going to be an outside linebacker. Okay. So now Macquarie Ball's going to need to be in the game to take up for that. Now we've got, let's see. Yeah, there's that. Now, who's our nose tackle? So we're going to need to go grab ourselves a nose tackle, which we should get anyways. I really think we need ourselves a real dyed-in-the-wool nose tackle for our wide 9. You know what I mean? DJ Jones was our dyed-in-the-wool nose tackle. That man was quick, and he could get push up front. I mean, he could just throw somebody off of him and be right in the middle of the hole. We need a terror like that. And that's why people are saying Gerard Payne. I love his form. I mean, the guy has. Have you watched any tape, David,
I have, and
on
he's
Gerard
very
Payne?
destructive. You know, he right next to Nick Bosa. Good luck. But at the same time, Yannick Ngakoue, that's the guy I want. You know, he was with the Colts. He had 9.5 sacks last season. He's 27 years old, so he's got, you know, a good 3-4 years left in him. And that's but he's an edge. You know, he's not an inside guy. So if we go that route, then we all of a sudden we have a guy to put opposite of Nick Bosa that's formidable. We also will have Drake Jackson who could develop into another. Then it's time to draft a guy for the middle. And when I say that, I'm not talking like big time destruction. I want a thick fella. I don't know. You probably heard me say this a few times. I want a thick fella, like a 6'6", 350+ pound guy that's just going to eat blockers up. You know, has a good 3-4 yard burst.
You want a Justin
but
Smith?
it's just going to, you know, the unmovable force. That's what we need right there. Next, between Armstead and Bosa, that's what we need right there. Unmovable force.
See, I want a shorter guy. And the reason why I want a shorter guy, because short guys have leverage on tall guys,
Like
and the league is
Jones,
going
right?
towards. Well, yeah. If you can get a short guy who's got long arms, that's the other thing I was saying. You know, like if you're looking for reach, well, don't just look for height. Height doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Look for how long his arms are, and you know how tall he is. That'll show how long he can reach. You know what I mean? His reach. DJ Jones, you know what I mean? If you can with long arms, that means he can get those long arms up quicker into the offensive lineman at an upward pace, and that gets up underneath the taller guys, and you can have more leverage.
Bebop brings up the guy that we drafted last year that we actually had practicing towards the end of the year, but they decided to shut him down. I think they wanted to let him heal fully before they start, you know, putting him in the game.
I think
Kalea
that's
Davis.
Yeah.
And that's it, he's going to be a good guy to have around. When it comes to our inside guys, we have, you know, Armstead, him, and Kinlaw, Mr. Unreliable, and Mr. gets pushed around a lot, which I was surprised to see. And that's it under contract. The rest of it is who knows, you know. Kevin Gibbons, Ridgeway, they're both free agents. T.Y. McGill was playing pretty good, but, you know, he's a guy. But we were also weren't we the third oldest team in the league? I mean, it might be time to get some young players.
Yeah. The issue is it seems like the 49ers don't like to draft young guys and make them into what they are. They're looking for they like to gamble on that defensive line. You know what I mean? They like to take shots and gamble on somebody's talent that they had coming out of college, which has hit every once in a while. But we saw it this year, their plan not work out so well. I mean, there wasn't a lot of production along that line, and Bosa had a hell of a year, but Bosa could have had a record-breaking season if he had more help. Like if you took out one of those guys on the Eagles defensive line and put Bosa on there, Bosa would have broke the record. Just saying, Bosa would have broke the record. It's just when you consider and double team Bosa and put all your concentration on him because you know nobody else is going to penetrate, that's an issue. And our secondary for once was the saving grace. Like Fred Warner Fred Warner on that play where he went from the what was it, the A gap, like 25 yards down the field to cover CeeDee Lamb and break up that pass. Like that was amazing. That's what got us through this. It was not that we didn't get any pressures because there was a reason that people were making bad passes, but they couldn't do it consistently. And that's why teams were able to march down the field on us.
Hey, Ryan, dude,
I was
for
looking
having
at
me
my screen
on.
like, what the heck?
Oh, you out here, Bryant?
I'm gonna dip out. My little girls, they're peeking through, and I don't know if I have the best audio, but really quickly, thank you for having me on, David. It's always
Yeah,
fun talking to you as well. I wanted to say one thing about the Fangio defensive thing. I think they looked at him and said, "Okay, who do you want to retain?" Because we have a lot of people on free agency, and we can get on almost anybody you want. So give us your thoughts. And I think I don't think necessarily it was a scheme necessarily. I think it was there was just too many people that he might have had to switch out, like you guys were saying. He does run a hybrid defense. He can do the 3-4 or the 4-3. He's very smart, but I just think there was just too many. The Niners, they have a core and they want to keep that core together, even though people are moving in and out and we got to plug and play a little bit. But we still have a core that they're trying to run back. It's the revenge tour 3.0 again, right? So I think just that idea. They said, okay, well, with Wilkes, we might be able to keep similar guys, similar fit, and the news came out that Kyle is potentially the defensive coordinator. If that's true, and he's got a lot of say over the defense, then yeah, bringing in Fangio, that wouldn't have clashed well. So, hey, once again, thanks for having me on, and we'll have to
Hey,
try to do
Bryant.
this again sometime.
Bryant, before
Yes,
you
sir.
go, real quick, hey, get on Discord and hit me up. Let's get on my Discord because I wanna go over tape with you in the Discord chat because we can watch tape on guys and do all this good stuff. This is one of the things I'm trying to build with this community is not just the shows like this, but behind the scenes actually doing homework to what we see on the stream. So I hope to see you in there, Bryant, because I know you're
Yeah,
very
just
well versed in
I
what's
appreciate
up.
that. I appreciate that. I have a lot of passion, and sometimes I get excited and I run over my thoughts a little bit, but I try to slow down and try to slow down and get as much information out as possible so people can clearly understand me. And again, I am very passionate, but you know how to get a hold of me. So shoot me links and whatever you need to, and we'll converse from there. But
All right,
once
man.
again, thanks for having me on. And everybody have a good night. Go Niners, and have a good Super Bowl. I'll talk to you guys soon. Good night.
Peace.
Yeah, I don't have the Discord yet. I'm actually, yeah, I have the app, but I haven't finished it yet. Nah. So I hate to do this to you, Ryan, but I gotta dip out too. I have a visitor coming in a couple minutes.
You're good, bro. It's about the 2-hour mark. I was about to call it here anyways.
Oh,
Go
sweet.
ahead. Say your piece. Give a shout
Well,
out, whatever you need to.
when it comes to this off season, we have some pieces we need to add. We need a better edge. We need a better interior lineman than Javin Kinlaw. And I believe that we do need a better center than Jake Brendel. Damian Lee brought up a good center's name, Bradley Bozeman. He was a 4-year starter with the Ravens. He's a very solid player. And, it's Kyle Shanahan's offense. The center plays a very, very big role. So it's time to get the career backup out of there. He did as good as he could. I saw him get blown up quite a few times. FF gives him some decent numbers, and so I think he was an alternate for the Pro Bowl. But I saw him get blown up enough times to the point where we need someone solid in there. And when it comes to right tackle, it's either going to be McKivitz or sign a veteran. Maybe that's what Zakel was drafted for. We're not sure yet. But the offseason and the speculation has just begun, folks. And when I say speculation, I'm talking about all the reporters. So, and you know, us being 49ers fans, it's just something we got to live with. I mean, they're always speculating, you know, it's what they do, right? And if it wasn't the 49er empire, if we weren't so vast, we wouldn't get all this attention. If we were NFL poverty, like, you know, the Arizona Cardinals or the Detroit Lions, we wouldn't get all this attention, right? We just wouldn't.
Yeah. And
But,
with
yep.
that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. You all have a wonderful weekend. And until next week, peace out.